Сюда смотри, слышь? Нихуя уебал. Пошли нахуй отсюда. Пошли быстрее нахуй. Да пошли.
Deep in the forest, one man followed massive footprints into the unknown. What he discovered wasn't just tracks. It was a terrifying secret that could rewrite everything we believe about Bigfoot. When a seasoned tracker set out to follow a trail of giant footprints winding through North Cheyenne Canyon Park, he expected clues, maybe a glimpse. But mile after mile, the forest turned darker, the signs more chilling. What he uncovered next wasn't just eerie, it was something truly unexplainable and deeply disturbing. It begins with stillness, the kind of quiet only deep forest roads can hold. No distant engines, no human presence, just the soft rustle of trees and the rhythmic hum of wind pressing through pine. A man stands far outside the tree line, recording a seemingly uneventful forest scene. He doesn't know it yet, but his lens has captured something extraordinary. Something upright, something black, and completely unaware it's being watched. At first it appears as just another trunk, dark, motionless, but something about it draws the eye. The proportions are off, wider at the top, tapering into a distinct shoulder line. It doesn't sway with the wind. It doesn't blend completely with the tree bark. And then the realization hits. It's not a tree at all. Watch yourself there, behind a curtain of pine and brush. A black, upright figure stands, no movement, no acknowledgement. As if carved into the forest itself. But the contours are too defined. The head, shaped with a subtle slope. The torso, broad and uniform. And most chilling of all, the arms hanging unnaturally long at its sides. The footage, uploaded by the channel Bigfoot's Testimony, carries no commentary, no dramatization, just raw documentation. And in its simplicity lies the weight of truth. The witness never enters the forest. He never calls out. Whether from instinct or awe, he simply films and lets the evidence speak for itself. The creature doesn't react. It remains fixed behind the thickest part of the tree cover, its posture eerily neutral. Most encounters, if they're even real, feature a fleeing subject, startled by human presence. But not this one. This creature, whatever it is, doesn't know it's being watched. That's what makes this sighting different. And that's what makes it terrifying. Zoomed in, the silhouette becomes undeniable. No fur texture is visible at this range, but the shape is unmistakable. Bipedal, dense, and tall. Its head doesn't move. Neither does the body. It's not reacting because it doesn't know. It's simply existing in the moment, perfectly still, camouflaged in plain sight. There's something about the footage that lingers. Perhaps it's the contrast between distance and proximity. From where the man is standing, the forest is serene. But just beyond the first few rows of trees, something primeval watches the woods. Or perhaps guards them. Texas, the Pacific Northwest, Appalachia, each region has its share of reports. But it's these fleeting, accidental glimpses that grip the public imagination. Not stories told around fires or blurry trail cams. It's the unintentional captures, the chance alignments between human and unknown, that keep the search alive. The figure eventually shifts, subtly. Not enough to catch if you're not looking, but the foliage near its side seems to compress. The arm, perhaps, pressing against branches as the body leans or slightly repositions. And then, just as fast, it stills once more. The shape softens into the forest shadows as the camera pulls back. A moment frozen, 1,000 questions raised, and not one answered. So what stood behind those trees that day? So still, so unaware, and so deeply camouflaged within its element. Could it be the legendary Bigfoot, observing in silence? Or was it something else entirely? Something native to the forest, but foreign to us. Before you decide, watch again. Look beyond the obvious. Follow the shadows. The truth, as always, is in the stillness. Share your thoughts below, and if you believe in revealing what lies beyond the trail, subscribe and stay with us, because the forest doesn't always keep its secrets. Could you stare back at something that isn't supposed to exist? And if it stares back, what would you do then? The footage is shaky but real. No music, no narration, no dramatization. Just a raw moment between a man with a camera and something watching him from the trees. A towering silhouette, hairy and upright, peeking cautiously from behind the trunk of a fir. Its face never quite visible, its posture unsettlingly human, and yet entirely foreign. Captured in 2010, this encounter was uploaded to the YouTube channel Bigfoot Encounters, a platform dedicated to sightings, stories, and honest documentation of what so many have claimed to witness but few can prove. Lyle, the channel's creator, has seen hundreds of clips, dozens of first-hand accounts, and hours of wilderness footage. But this one carries something more. Something primal. Watch yourself. The figure remains motionless, a shadow behind the tree, before slowly crouching down. Not running, not hiding, just lowering itself, as if testing the man's reaction. This behavior, as Lyle explains in his channel notes, is classic Sasquatch patterning. Remain unseen until seen, then crouch low, then rise to full height. Not to attack, but to intimidate. What happens next chills most viewers. The figure doesn't flee. Instead, it shifts. First one step to the side, then another, revealing enough of its body mass to make the scale obvious. This isn't a man in a suit. No zipper lines, no comedic pacing, just a living mass. One that breathes, moves with weight, and commands the space around it with silence alone. The cameraman, now aware of what he's seeing, backs up slightly. His breathing speeds up. No dialogue is needed. Every step away echoes louder. The figure's eyes, although hard to make out, don't blink. They follow, still crouched, but unmistakably alive. The comments on this video erupted with belief, skepticism, and even emotional reactions. One viewer detailed a vivid dream from Australia, where she encountered a juvenile Bigfoot, or Yowie, in her own backyard. Her description wasn't just imaginative, it was sensory. She felt its coarse hair against her skin. She heard its presence before she saw it. The way it mimicked her movements. The way it stayed just close enough to be real, and just far enough to remain terrifying. She confessed she still avoids her backyard at night, months later. Could there be a subconscious connection between humans and this elusive creature? A primal recognition of something ancient, something wild, that never truly left? Back in the footage, the figure rises. This is the moment that breaks people. The camera jolts, the frame swings, and there's a rush of motion that ends in a breathless halt. Watch yourself. There's a pause, a moment where both human and creature simply exist in the same space. The silence is louder than any sound. No birds, no wind, just presence. And then it's gone. One step back into the trees, one sway of branches, vanished into the thicket. For Lyle and his subscribers, this video is more than just eerie footage. It's a pattern, a behavior that keeps repeating across states, countries, even continents. A script that these creatures seem to follow when caught in the open. Intimidate, don't attack. Show just enough to be remembered, and just little enough to be doubted. So we return to the question, if they're not real, then who's writing this pattern? And if they are, why are they always watching? If you've seen something, felt something, or dreamed something you can't explain, maybe you're not alone. Drop your story in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and come back for more chilling encounters caught in real time. Because in the vast dark of the forest, something is always watching. What if in the darkness of a secluded campsite, the face of a legend suddenly materialized before terrified eyes? What if the myth of Sasquatch stepped out from whispered legends and into the raw reality of your camera lens? On February 10, 2022, in the remote wilderness where whispers of the unknown have long permeated the night air, an unsuspecting camper found himself face to face with a living enigma. Far from the bustling noise of civilization, under a sky heavy with secrets, he aimed his camera at the silent trails and crude firelight flickering in the distance. In that charged moment, something shifted. Deep within the embrace of towering trees and shifting shadows, the face of a Sasquatch emerged. Not a blurry trick of light or a figment of overactive imagination, but a solid, unmistakable visage, a face etched by time and mystery. The footage captures a moment of raw terror and wonder. The camper's hands tremble as he films. His wide eyes speak the story his voice never could. The creature's countenance, set deep in a mask of dark, matted hair, its eyes dark pools that hold centuries of secrets, appears unexpectedly close, as if reaching out to bridge the gap between our world and something ancient, something primal. For a heartbeat, reality falters. Time seems to slow, every second thick with the weight of an encounter that defies explanation. Every nuance of that recorded face tells a story. The curve of its brow, the distance between its piercing eyes, the still yet alert expression that offers no sign of fear, only an inscrutable calm. In that silent exchange, the camper becomes both witness and part of the legend. Here, on this quiet night in the wilderness, myth and reality interlace, leaving him forever changed. Squatch TV, a humble YouTube channel with a small but fiercely dedicated following, brings you this evidence as raw as the night itself, unfiltered and unaltered by any artifice. The video doesn't attempt to explain what it sees. It merely presents the truth for viewers to decide. As shadows lengthen and the forest grows darker, the captured image lingers, a poignant reminder that some legends are born from more than mere folklore. They are etched into the living memory of the wild, resurfacing when least expected. This is a moment of convergence, where horror meets awe, and a solitary camper's terror paints a vivid picture of what may still dwell beyond our understanding. In this encounter, the lines blur between fact and fable. The creature remains still, even as the world around it stirs with uncertainty. The camper's camera records every unfolding detail without intervention, a silent, compelling testament to the profound possibility that the realm of Sasquatch is not confined to childhood tales or discounted reports. It lives, it watches, and it challenges our perceptions of what truly roams the night. If you've ever questioned whether legends are merely the product of collective imagination, let this footage speak for itself. Revisit the darkness of that camp, where one face emerged from the void and etched its mystery into memory. Do you see the unyielding gaze that speaks of forgotten realms? Can you feel the pulse of a timeless presence that stands silently between the known and the unknown? So what do you believe? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments. Subscribe to Sasquatch TV for more authentic encounters captured in the wild. Your journey into the untamed corridors of legend continues here. Because in the deep silence of the wilderness, every face has a story, and every story begs to be believed. What kind of creature willingly dives into alligator-infested waters, only to vanish without a trace? And what if it wasn't human, not a bear, but something we're not supposed to believe exists? It was a quiet January afternoon in the Florida swamplands. The stillness of Lettuce Lake Park, a 240-acre stretch of dense wetland northeast of Tampa, was broken only by the paddle strokes of a lone canoeist. Matt, the man behind the camera, wasn't expecting anything unusual that day. He was drifting slowly through backwater channels, his eyes watching for birds, maybe a few deer, but what he found left him shaken. A dark figure appears along the bank. It seems upright, vaguely bear-like. But the more it moves, the more that theory falls apart. The arms swing too long, the stride too deliberate. It wades through waist-deep swamp like a trained swimmer, undeterred by the thick roots and silt-heavy waters. Matt did what anyone with a pulse and a phone would do. He started filming. He assumed at first it was a bear, perhaps disoriented or desperate. But Lettuce Lake isn't known for bears. In fact, park rangers had warned that bears avoid the area entirely, likely due to the high population of gators and venomous snakes. If it was a human, it wasn't acting like one. And if it wasn't a bear, the question gets more complicated. Matt emailed his footage to the Bigfoot Evidence YouTube channel, the long-standing archive for strange sightings across North America. The video, which arrived on January 15, 2015, was published just days later, an unedited, raw glimpse into something no one can explain. What strikes most viewers isn't just the form of the creature, but its behavior. It doesn't hesitate. It moves through the swamp like it belongs there. Watch yourself. The figure looks up, not directly at the camera, but towards something in the direction of Matt's canoe. Then, without warning, it begins to drift into deeper water. It lowers itself, gradually submerging until its entire body disappears below the surface. There's no splashing, no panic, just a calculated descent, until nothing remains but ripple trails in the dark green water. Matt paddled forward, cautiously, but the creature was gone. There were no bubbles, no shape underwater, no sign of where it went. And this wasn't a wide lake with hiding spots. This was a tight, shallow, gator-infested corner of the swamp, a place where nothing dives unless it knows exactly what it's doing. Skeptics were quick to offer explanations. A man in a suit, a lost animal, a trick of light. But Matt's concern was genuine. In his email, he emphasized that no sane person would voluntarily walk and dive through that part of the swamp. Not with the risk of 12-foot alligators lurking underfoot, or water moccasins curled beneath the reeds. The footage slows slightly. You can see the texture of the creature's arms as it emerges from the thick brush. There's no fur matting like a bear, no reflective gear like a human diver, just long, matte dark limbs, moving with heavy grace. The proportions don't fit any known species in the region, and no zoo or wildlife authority ever reported anything loose in the area. Was it the fabled skunk ape of Florida lore? Or something else, something undocumented? The swamp holds its secrets close. This encounter, sent not by a hunter but a casual witness with no agenda, forces us to reconsider what might still roam America's wild pockets. Not everything leaves tracks. Not everything makes a sound. But once you see something like this, you don't forget it. Matt's final words linger. Certainly can't explain it myself. If you believe something unknown still calls the Florida wilderness home, or if you've seen anything like this with your own eyes, let us know in the comments. Subscribe to Bigfoot Evidence for real footage, real witnesses, and real questions that demand answers. Because out there in the forgotten corners of the swamp, legends don't stay buried. They walk, swim, and disappear. It starts like any other stretch of rural Texas, low-lying brushland, rustling palms swaying under a deep southern sky. But not everything seen in these backwoods makes sense. In 2010, outside the quiet edges of San Bonito, something unexplainable was captured on camera. Something massive, something watching. A local exploration, what should have been just another casual outing, quickly turned into one of the most debated pieces of cryptid footage to come from the Lone Star State. This wasn't blurry or vague. The figure was clear, large, and motionless, until it moved. Watch closely.
Okay, so it's something, a dog or what?
This isn't your average forest shadow. The footage begins with a wide view of thick, overgrown brush, flat terrain dotted with mesquite and palm. At first, there's no immediate reason to pause. But crouched low in the foliage sits a figure, a hulking dark shape so camouflaged it almost vanishes into the scenery. A closer inspection reveals something unnatural. Not a deer, not a hog, not even a bear. This was something else entirely. And then it stands. Watch yourself.
Okay, so it's something, a dog or what? Oh, la verga!
The creature rises, unfurling slowly from the brush with a weight and size that dwarfs the surrounding foliage. It doesn't panic, doesn't bolt. It just rises with a kind of deliberate presence. The shoulders are wide, the limbs long. Its sheer bulk appears humanoid but oversized, too big for a man, too upright for any known wildlife of the region. Squatch Mafia, the channel behind this now infamous upload, has long specialized in raw, unembellished encounters from the field. Their focus spans Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, and even dogman phenomena. But this encounter, captured in the sticky heat of southern Texas, stands out for one simple reason: proximity. The clarity, the size. This wasn't filmed miles off through shaky zooms. The camera remains grounded, stable, and unusually close to the subject. It's one of the rare moments where speculation pauses and instinct kicks in. Anyone watching this frame by frame begins to feel the creeping awareness. Something huge was out there that day. Not imagined, not misidentified, seen. The vegetation shifts subtly as the creature moves. No loud snap of branches, no roar or bark, just the quiet ripple of underbrush parting around something that doesn't belong. There's an eerie intelligence in its movements, almost like it knew it was being watched and simply didn't care. When slowed down, the footage reveals the creature's silhouette against a narrow opening of sunlight. The limbs appear thick with muscle, the head sloped, the gait unhurried. It's the kind of scene that sticks in the mind. not for what it shows directly, but for what it implies. This region of Texas has long whispered of strange happenings. The Rio Grande Valley, where San Bonito sits, has more than a few stories of shadowy figures and unexplained sightings. But few come back with this level of visual evidence. The encounter may have been filed away quietly in 2013, but its rediscovery by cryptid researchers has reignited debate. Was it Bigfoot? Something else? Or a clever hoax no one's yet disproven? No costume folds, no seams, no human proportions break through. The being's mass is consistent from every angle. Its arms hang long and loose, well past the waist. Its back arches as it vanishes again into the brush, swallowed once more by the very wild it came from. This is the moment the size becomes undeniable. As it turns slightly, the sun outlines its shape in full, easily over 7 feet tall, maybe more. The shoulders alone would eclipse most doorway frames. And then it disappears, soundless, deliberate. Whether you believe in cryptids or not, there's no denying the impact of moments like these. The calm of nature interrupted by a presence that doesn't quite belong. A glimpse into something older, deeper, an intelligence that watches from the fringe of our understanding. So what was it that stood up from those Texas bushes in 2013? Was it Bigfoot, alive and well in the Rio Grande Valley? Or was it something even stranger, something that doesn't yet have a name? The debate continues, but the footage remains. Study it, share it, question it. Because out here, in the edges of the known, answers rarely come easy. What if the truth about Sasquatch was never about just footprints or blurry photos? What if the real story, one hiding in plain sight, was woven in beams of light and interdimensional whispers deep in the forests of our Earth? In a quiet corner of the wilderness, just beyond the range of conventional explanation, one man returned to the site of a memory and stumbled into something extraordinary. This wasn't just a walk through the woods. This was a confrontation with a different kind of reality. On August 27, 2015, the creator of Planet Sasquatch retraced his steps to a location that had once revealed an orb, what he calls a light portal, back in September of 2014.
And so I actually came up here and I came down this trail. It was about mid-afternoon on September the 12th, 2014. And so I was heading in the opposite direction from where I'm pointing, and I got to about this point around the ridge here.
His purpose was simple, to share that experience on camera for episode 35. But as he filmed, something began to stir, first in the lens, then in the reactions of his viewers. Unknown to him, his audience would soon be gripped by the visuals captured on that unassuming day. Watch yourself as he gestures toward a section of forest.
What I actually saw was 4 beams of light suspended in the air, and they were just hovering about 2 feet above the ground. And the spot, let me get over here to show you where the spot was where this took place.
At first it's subtle, an unusual brightness, a shimmer that could be dismissed as a glint off bark or a stray beam of sunlight. But with every step forward, the illusion dissolves. This wasn't a reflection. It was something entirely different. Suspended just 2 feet above the forest floor were 4 vertical beams of light, perfectly parallel, radiant, still.
And they were just hovering about 2 feet above the ground. A little bit closer to it, it wasn't anything like that at all.
He didn't find them with instrumentation or through planned analysis. They revealed themselves naturally, without provocation, hovering in mid-air, no visible source, no sound, just presence. The site, later marked by a small triangular wooden structure, became a focal point for deeper reflection. Could this be evidence not just of Sasquatch, but of a means by which they appear, vanish, or perhaps interact with our world from another layer of existence. Viewers began scrutinizing the video. The comment section swelled with frame-by-frame analysis. Some claimed to see forest beings, figures blending into the tree line with uncanny precision. Others reported observing what they described as gray-like entities, standing motionless yet fully present. Watch yourself to witness the clarity with which these beams of light appear.
What I actually saw was 4 beams of light suspended in the air. And the spot, let me get over here to show you where the spot was where this took place. I actually put a small triangular wood structure in the spot that this took place, which is right here.
Hovering, unwavering, and completely unexplainable by known natural phenomena. These weren't merely speculations born of pixelated imaginations. There was an undeniable consistency in what people described. It wasn't just the beams, but what surrounded them. Figures that seemed to watch from the distance. Shapes that vanished when paused, but reappeared during movement. Some viewers even described the energy of the video shifting. A sense of tension, wonder, or what one viewer simply called the edge of the veil. The investigator didn't present these findings as facts. Instead, he invited interpretation.
That show, and it was basically bright, and it was kind of pulsating. It had kind of a pulsating tone to it, and it was just like something that was burning or beaming.
He placed the triangular wooden marker at the exact location the beams had floated, not as a shrine, but as a signal, a landmark in the greater landscape of Sasquatch research. Watch yourself as he reveals his artist's recreation of the event.
Recreation of that show, and it was
a representation of what might otherwise be lost to fleeting memory. Throughout the remainder of the episode, the footage continues, quiet, slow, immersive. There are no dramatic camera cuts, no voice raised for effect, just raw observation. And within that stillness, something lingers. Every pause of the frame invites deeper examination. Every second becomes a potential revelation. What Planet Sasquatch offers isn't the kind of proof skeptics demand. It's something more elusive, more layered. It suggests that these beings, these forest people, may not just be flesh and blood. They may carry an awareness that transcends the physical, interacting with the earth and with us in ways we have yet to understand. The beams of light, the sudden vanishing, the presence in stillness, all hint at a reality that runs alongside ours like a shadow trail in the woods. So what do you see in the footage? Do the beams of light suggest technology, spirituality, or something entirely beyond classification? Have you ever felt the energy shift in the wild, like something just beyond your vision was watching? Leave a comment below and share your insights. Subscribe to journey further into the heart of the unknown, where evidence meets experience and light pierces the veil. Stay alert. Something happened on that remote logging road in Mission, British Columbia. And it wasn't just another quiet walk in the woods. In the deep green shadows of Canada's west coast, among the faded scars of old timber operations, one hiker's lens captured a fleeting anomaly that would stir debate across the small but fiercely curious community of Sasquatch enthusiasts. The clip itself, rough, distant, and unassuming at first glance, emerged on the Legend Tracker YouTube channel, a relatively obscure outlet. Yet, as the footage unfolds, it demands more than a casual viewing. There's something deeply unsettling in its simplicity, and whether it's a man, a hoax, or something entirely unexplainable, the clip carries weight, and you'll see it.
They spy this guy way down by the lake doing something. Who knows what? Well, I found a couple of interesting things about this. One, it doesn't appear he's alone. And two, he does something that I don't believe any human on the planet can do.
A figure, massive and dark, emerges from what appears to be a natural depression in the landscape, perhaps an old stump basin or a water-carved hollow near the lake's edge. There's no fanfare, no howl, just quiet motion. The figure walks with intent but not urgency, briefly obscured by a tree as it reaches skyward toward an indistinct object, perhaps mist, perhaps glare. Then a throw, a clear left-handed toss into the water or brush. Whether casual or purposeful, the motion strikes an odd chord. Southpaw or not, the gesture feels deliberate, and oddly enough, comical in its mundanity. Yet it's this same toss that sends the narrator and us down a rabbit hole of biomechanics. Zoomed and enhanced, the figure's gait becomes the crux of the mystery. Not only is it tall and broad, those are common descriptors in the Bigfoot playbook, but it moves in a way that seems almost alien to the human body. The most jarring moment is when it steps off into a waist-deep depression. Unlike a human navigating terrain, the figure keeps its torso perfectly upright. No hunching forward to counterbalance, no arms swinging out to stabilize. The trailing foot, bizarrely, lingers on the ledge behind, as if gravity has granted a brief exemption. That scene alone inspired a physical recreation by the narrator, who attempts to mimic the motion. Each trial results in failure. His foot can't stay back without toppling his frame forward. His torso inevitably bends. Even when reducing the height of the step-off or doing it from a standstill, the replication proves impossible. This sequence, raw and almost comical in its trial-and-error honesty, becomes unintentionally persuasive.
That is a big foot. I don't care what you say. Now he steps off into this hole, and look how he does it. Kind of brings his leg way up, like he's some sort of drum major or something, and then steps off into a waist-deep hole.
To watch the experiment unravel in real time, not only does it underline the strangeness of the original movement, but it reveals how little room there is for trickery when physics has a say. Still, it would be easy to dismiss everything, until the camera pans back. Near the edge of the frame, another form rises. Brief, subtle, and tucked high above the primary subject, a second figure, barely perceptible, appears to peek from the ridge. Spy hopping, the narrator calls it. A term typically reserved for whales and orcas, here it's repurposed to describe what could be a second Sasquatch, observing from afar. That small head-shaped silhouette, emerging and sinking back into the forest line, suggests companionship or even coordination. And when this possibility is presented, the footage shifts from eerie to extraordinary. As the subject resumes its actions, bending, gesturing, possibly placing something on the ground, it repeats a peculiar motion. It's this redundancy that throws off the "just a fisherman" theory. Why mimic the same gesture at the same angle twice? If he's removing gear, why do it with such exaggerated formality? And if it's a human, why choose such awkward terrain for something as simple as casting a line? These questions begin to pile, uncomfortably. To watch the final comparison, the narrator sets his frame side by side with the original figure.
My trailing leg is going to drop into this 45, and watch, he just falls off into the hole now. I mean, it's the oddest thing. And look, he sticks it. He doesn't take another step, and his foot is still back from where he stepped off, and I'm stumbling off into a pinto over here.
The contrast is stark. He stumbles where the figure glides. His torso lurches, arms flail, balance fails. Meanwhile, the original subject remains upright, poised, composed, as if its entire frame was designed for a different relationship with gravity. What do you think? Is it just clever terrain manipulation, or did Legend Tracker really catch something beyond human limits? Drop your theories below, Because if even one frame is real, then everything changes. What begins as a quiet investigation through the tall corn stalks of a rural Ohio field unravels into something else entirely. A terrifying glimpse into a place where strange creatures do more than just hide in the shadows. This isn't the typical evening walk through farmland. This is something far older, far stranger, and far more dangerous. Watch yourself as the first sign strikes, shaky, confused, and repeated in a near chant.
What the hell is that? What the hell is it doing? Nope, I'm done. Oh my god, it just made a noise. No!
What the hell is that? What the hell is it doing? Panic sets in quickly, not because of what's seen, but because of what remains unclear. The footage trembles. The wind rustles through rows of corn. Yet within that rustle comes something unnatural. Not animal, not wind. Something else. Something aware. The farmer's account comes into sharper focus. He's planted corn in alternating years, hoping to let the soil rest. But it isn't the soil that stirs. When corn returns, so do the entities. Dashing shadows, unnatural cries, and tall figures silently rising above the tallest stalks.
I'm gonna start that over. The house is right over there. I don't know if you can see his lights, but things are coming from the cornfield over to his house and starting some ruckus. So he's wanting to know what it is, if I have to worry about it, or if he has to worry about it. I know I'm going to worry about it.
These aren't fleeting figures of the imagination. These are recurring disturbances, sightings, whispers, and events that now grow bolder as daylight fades. By 3 o'clock, the investigator edges deeper into the field. He speaks of nearby woods, of a house plagued by unknown nighttime intrusions.
Then he'll see something dart across or stand there. And he's also seen something that stands way taller than the corn, and I don't know how that's possible. But the wind is blowing.
Of disturbances that worsen whenever the corn grows high. The camera pans. A breeze carries across the microphone, but the stalks barely bend. Then, out of nowhere, the sound returns. And you'll hear it yourself. Something sharp, distorted, almost insectile, like a chirp, but wrong. It does not belong to any known bird or creature.
If I can find something, he's never doing corn again. If I can't find anything, then maybe he feels it's his imagination and he's going crazy.
The cold sweeps in as if ushering something closer. The investigator, determined yet clearly unnerved, pulls out a ghost box, a tool typically reserved for spirit communication, and asks the most primal question of all: what is in this cornfield? The replies are garbled, clipped by static and overlapping frequencies. Yet some words emerge: me die, mercy, trap. Languages seem to blend. Tones shift from plea to threat, and then silence. For a moment, the land holds its breath. Then eyes appear, just past 12 Hunquak. Glowing reflections flicker in the black. Twin lights, then 4. Watching, not moving, just observing the intruder in their territory. He whispers about being watched, about feeling surrounded. He scans, but no shape materializes. Only those eyes. Only that gaze.
What was that? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? It's moving. Shit. I can't run. There's potholes everywhere.
Watch yourself when it returns again, louder this time. The same repeated question, almost ritualistic. What the hell is that? What the hell is it doing? Over and over, in rhythm with footsteps crunching through the brush and breathing that now fights to remain calm. The camera jitters, the flashlight flickers, then cuts. Darkness swallows the scene, light fails, batteries drain, panic overtakes resolve. The mission, document the creature, verify the farmer's claims, ends in abrupt retreat. The man, now whispering to himself in fear, admits it plainly. He's done. This isn't just one man's wild tale.
Hello, I want to ask a question. What is in this cornfield? I'm near it.
It's not just another shaky video. This is consistent, documented, the same field, the same year, the same time. Only when the corn grows tall, whether it's a dogman, a Bigfoot variant, or something as yet unnamed.
How to get over here? How to get... Nope. Oh, that is making that noise. I don't like it.
The evidence stacks higher with every terrified witness. Ohio may not be the place people associate with predators of myth, but this footage changes that. If this is what happens when corn is planted, when the tall stalks rise to form natural cathedrals for hidden beings, what dwells inside them? Why only in the corn? Why only then? And perhaps more importantly, how long have they been waiting? Some encounters are easy to dismiss. Others refuse to fade into silence. And then there are those that straddle the line, caught between hoax and truth, between disbelief and a glimpse into something primal. This is the story of one such line, a line blurred by two separate video clips, a common mystery, and one name that won't disappear, Randall Hart. On the surface, it began like many supposed Bigfoot captures do. Flickering footage, a shaking hand, a figure just distant enough to elude clarity. But the details tell a more tangled tale. It started with a short 10-second clip uploaded by a user named Dave Boccia. The figure that appeared on screen wasn't merely blurry, it was beastly, towering. Its proportions were wrong for a man. The arms hung low, unnaturally so. The gait was slow and weighty, but coordinated in a way that didn't mimic human movement. The creature didn't turn to the camera, it didn't posture, it simply walked, with a chilling nonchalance. To see the clip that left seasoned viewers second-guessing their instincts. At first glance, it seemed like another potential win for believers. But beneath the surface, the story darkens. According to the Unexplained with Adam, the same video, or something alarmingly similar, has appeared before. Only this time, it wasn't under the alias Dave Boccia, but rather under the name Randall Hart, a figure long accused of staging cryptid hoaxes. And now, this channel claims Hart is using false identities to repurpose old content, stoke belief, and cloud the waters of genuine research. But then comes the twist. The second clip in question, allegedly featuring Randall Hart's Bigfoot holding a chicken in its massive hand, refuses to be easily dismissed. The same questions emerge. Could it really be a man in costume? The scale is off. The arm length, again, matches no ordinary person. And the motion, the slow, deliberate rise of the creature's shoulders, the flex in its knee joint as it steps, is strangely fluid. To observe what believers argue is too authentic to be dismissed outright. Skeptics cry foul. The repeated appearances of the same style, the same locations, the same camera angle all suggest a single source of manipulation. But believers are not so easily swayed. They argue that even if Randall Hart is the name behind both uploads, this does not necessarily mean the footage is fake. Instead, they suggest a more curious possibility. What if the man known for hoaxes accidentally captured something real? The idea might seem wild, but cryptid history is full of moments where pranksters stumbled into authenticity. And in these two clips, the details don't quite scream costume. There's no visible fabric seam, no stiffness around the knees. The arm swing has weight, momentum, and the creature never reacts like a human playing a part. Watch yourself side-by-side comparison to catch the subtle shift in the creature's posture. Something a performer would almost certainly overplay, not underplay. This, perhaps, is what makes these clips so unsettling. Not their quality, but their restraint. The creature never turns toward the lens, never acknowledges the presence of the camera, and most notably, never offers the kind of exaggerated motion typical of a fake. So could these two clips, from Dave Boccia and Randall Hart, have originated from the same person? Absolutely. The visual language is too similar. The environment, lighting, and even the figure's pacing all echo each other. But does that shared origin automatically prove a hoax? That is where believers draw the line. So we ask you, where does this footage fall? If the same hand is behind both videos, is it a skilled manipulator doubling down, or a conflicted man who just once might have caught the real thing? Some questions may never be fully answered, but in the pursuit of the unexplained, even the whispers of doubt can fuel the fire of belief. Let us know what you think. Do the long arms and fluid motion seem too perfect to fake? Is Randall Hart fooling us again, or did he finally see what others only chase in dreams? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and more importantly, tell us, which cryptid encounter should we investigate next? Is it the Mothman's return, the Texas Goat Man, or something hiding in your own backyard? Don't blink, or you'll miss it. In the still heat of a Queensland afternoon, an eyewitness claimed to see something that shouldn't exist. Something that leapt from a tree like a shadow breaking loose from the branches. Thousands of miles away, in the dense temperate forests of the Pacific Northwest, a camera captured nearly the same thing. A dark figure diving through the treetops with acrobatic force, vanishing before the mind could catch up to the eyes. What ties them together is a chilling common thread. A species too fast, too quiet, and far too real for the world to ignore much longer.
It had its back toward me the entire time, a mere 20 seconds tops. It was only 5 feet tall. I'm 5'9" and built like a brick house. I was amazed how fast it went up into the mulga, and also how sheeny and clean its fur or hair seemed, considering the wilderness it calls home.
To witness what the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization calls lightning in motion, a Yahoi launching from a tree in Australia's wilderness. The witness, Matthew Taylor, was stunned not just by the creature's velocity, but by its astonishing form. A compact black-furred being with conical head, shoulderless frame, and enormous flipper-like feet. It was like lightning, he wrote, still grasping the physics of what he'd seen. Jet black, shiny fur. I swear on my grand's grave, nothing added, nothing omitted.
It was like lightning moving away uphill into the dense bush, as if there were no trees, bushes, or scrub even there. It was jet black, shiny fur hair from conical, small, shoulderless head to large, flipper feet toes. Its soles of its feet were like cement mixed powder or dry concrete pre-sand, gravel, and water.
This wasn't an echo of a past sighting. It was a fresh imprint on the growing story of an ancient presence hidden in plain sight. As the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch voiceover transitions, it leads viewers straight into the Pacific Northwest, where a Snapchat video, seemingly random, caught something eerily similar. A woman clearing trees with heavy machinery unknowingly filmed a fleeting figure launching itself from high in the canopy. Only on review did she realize what she had captured. The creature appears to descend with uncanny grace, using its arms and legs in a controlled, gymnastic fall. Branches are grasped mid-air. Momentum is redirected. Then it's gone. What's remarkable isn't just the acrobatics, but the precision, calculated descent, directional momentum, total command of body movement. As the footage plays again in slow motion, it reveals the intricacy behind the blur. The creature uses branches not just to slow its fall, but to launch into a second trajectory. It glides, not like a falling body, but like a practiced arboreal hunter moving between trees with biological ease. Arms stretch outward, back leg folds at a precise angle, and in midair, the figure turns, swinging out to disappear into thick undergrowth. Watch yourself as the video is broken down frame by frame.
I'm talking about controlled descent. It is propelling itself towards the ground by grabbing branches or the trunk of the tree. It may have also landed on this branch with its feet. It's controlling its descent from 2 points right here, grabbing a hold of the branch or the trunk and its feet on this other branch.
The narrator explains how the descent isn't chaotic. It's engineered. Each limb is used as a tool, each muscle calculated. The creature seems to momentarily float, like a gymnast mid-vault, its control astonishing for something that shouldn't be there at all. For some, it suggests an incredibly elusive primate. For others, it's confirmation of something older, smarter, and already adapted to this world's harshest corners. But this isn't just a tale of North American forests or Australian scrubland. These encounters link something deeper, shared behaviors that span continents. The Yahoe in Queensland and the Sasquatch of North America aren't just similar in myth or appearance. They're near identical in action. Both are described as shoulderless, cone-headed, muscular, and covered in sleek fur. Both have been seen to leap from trees and vanish into terrain that would trip any human. And both continue to be documented, though rarely understood. One photo from North Queensland, taken near the Aboriginal community of Yaba, shows a large humanoid footprint pressed into the dirt, its scale revealed by a common flip-flop placed beside it. The photo, dated December 2023, was captured during the Southern Hemisphere's summer. Just a few months prior, in the same region,
Larry posts the following image and writes on RMSO Media, North Queensland, Australia, near the Aboriginal community of Yarra.
Another report described a sighting of a black, fast-moving Yahoe that vanished into the mulga scrub in seconds. These communities, steeped in generations of oral history, have long accepted what modern science avoids. These beings are not fantasy. They're residents, as images surface of other alleged Yowie tracks across Queensland. In one case from 2004, a distinct footprint was measured and catalogued by YowieHunters.com, showing anatomical features impossible to fake.
This suspect Yowie track was documented near Wilcannia, Queensland in 2004.
The heel pad, toe splay, and depth of impression speak to something with significant mass and biomechanical complexity. The footprints don't tell a story of wandering beasts. They show purpose, direction, and stealth. These are not clumsy giants. They are specialists in the art of not being seen. There's a tone of reverence in every eyewitness account, a careful balance of awe and warning. "Mess with them at your own peril," Taylor said, his voice flat but certain. Not because these beings are hostile, but because they are unpredictable, powerful.
At first, she thought it was a person dressed up in a gorilla suit. However, up close, she realized it was a real creature.
And entirely outside our control. For some, they're nature spirits. For others, they're relic hominids. But for everyone who's seen one, they are unforgettable. And perhaps that's the most important takeaway. These creatures, if they are to be believed, are not looking for us. They're moving just fast enough to stay ahead of our disbelief. Whether swinging silently through pine forests or vanishing into eucalyptus groves, they share one ability that's proving harder and harder to dismiss.
Another aggressive yowie was filmed in December of 2010, showing hostility toward the witness. This creature appears to be stomping feet and making an aggressive display towards them before they decided to run.
They leave just enough behind to keep us chasing the truth. If you've ever questioned whether stories like these could be real, ask yourself, what would it take to believe something your own eyes hadn't seen, but someone else swore by with everything they held sacred? Are these the final moments before discovery? Or are we still decades behind something that's been watching us all along? Let us know what you think below. Have you ever seen anything leap from a tree like that? Do you believe the Yahoi and Sasquatch are the same species? Or two ancient cousins spread across the globe? Join the discussion, subscribe for more boots-on-the-ground evidence, and help us track what might be the most agile mystery in the world. The tracks have long faded, but what he witnessed will never leave him, or the land itself. As new reports surface and structures continue to appear, one truth remains. Something ancient and intelligent is watching. Could you follow those prints into the unknown? Subscribe and step deeper into the mystery with us.